Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episodes 1 and 2 of season 2 of FX's Dave. Episode 1 is entitled International Gander, and episode 2 is entitled Antsy, which is a nice little double entendre if you watch the episode. But before I talk about the episodes and the season so far, I just want to talk about Dave a little bit, the show. I like this show far more than I thought I would when I watched it. I was a pretty big fan of Lil Dicky prior to the show, which is what prompted me to watch it. And then I watched it and I got a lot more, a lot more of everything than I expected. I figured it'd kind of be like a funny, jokey kind of show. And it is, it's very funny, but I mean, there's a lot of depth here. There's a lot of character development. There's a lot of very relatable situations that Dave deals with. And I find it very similar to Atlanta and almost in a so similar that you could almost look at that as a criticism of the show. I feel like it does mirror Atlanta quite a bit, but at the end of the day, if you are equally as entertaining, then I'm not gonna complain too much. The show has a great cast, really interesting characters, people who are really part of Lil Dicky's life, and it's got like really like cringy moments, which I really enjoy. That's something that's kind of absent in Atlanta, aside from that one Michael Jackson-y kind of episode. But this has a lot of moments that I have not leapt, but like I have straightened up in my seat or kind of like yelled at the screen or grimaced or something like that from things that have happened in this show. And it does a great job of being very, very cringy. And I think, and in a good way, not cringy like he's being weird toward women or something like that, but like just moments that are just like, oh my God, like this is so gross, or this is so disturbing, or I'm cringing because of just how awkward this entire scenario is. This show does a lot with Lil Dicky or Dave's awkwardness. And I don't know if that's really how he is in real life, or this is kind of like part of his acting. I know the show in general plays a lot off of his real life, but whatever the case may be, he is an incredibly awkward guy, and it plays perfectly on this show to create situations that you can't help but be so invested in the show and in the character because he's so likable. But then he does things that you're just like, oh my God, I this is so awkward, and you just feel for him, but you're feeling it yourself too. And I think that's just a sign of like really good writing. So needless to say, it was one of my favorite shows of last year. It made my top 10, and there is a literal top 10 of my top 10 shows of 2020 that exist out there on the internet. I was a guest on another podcast where I talked about these shows, and it was a long podcast. I bother telling you about it. It's somewhere on, if you look up Daily DVR in your wherever you get your podcast, there's a best of 2020 kind of like group episode that I am on, but it's something like 3 or 4 hours long because like everybody gives like their top 10. But that aside, Dave was in my top 10 surprisingly. I was that impressed with the show. So of course I was really excited for this season. Also, I didn't know it was going to be 2 episodes until I sat down to watch it. And I'm like, oh shit, I get 2 episodes? And that kind of mirrors my experience with season 1, because whenever it was that I decided to start watching the show, I watched an episode and I was like, that was awesome. I really enjoyed that. And then it started to play a second episode. I'm like, oh shit, I get 2 episodes? And then I think it started to play a third after that. And I don't think they released 3 episodes in one night. I think maybe I was like a week behind or something. But yeah, like getting 3 episodes in one night was a very joyous situation for 2020 Michael, who was incredibly drunk and or high at the time he watched it. So it was really, really fun. But yeah, these 2 episodes I thought they kept with what I've come to expect from this show. Really funny, some really good depth here. Dealing with Dave's internal conflict of like his inability to write his album. And I think that kind of plays up the idea, and this is an idea I hadn't considered prior to watching this episode. It plays up the idea of like, if you're someone who created a viral hit or something of that nature and you sign like this big contract, all the pressure that comes along with having to now create an entire album. Whereas like, I think virtually anybody could create a viral song. It's really not that hard. There's some really bad ones out there that get play. But to take that and expand it to the point of like, he even says something like to the effect of this in the episode, like, I have to create something that's new, something that's deep, something that's profound, like all these things that are expected of him for a debut album, and that pressure. And there's still that's still present. The awkwardness is still present, like by a million. Celebrity cameos are still present. So lots of great stuff on this show. It's still right where it was last year. So I'm loving it so far, and I will be covering this week to week. But a couple things I want to talk about with these first 2 episodes that I really, really enjoyed. I didn't have anything that I did not like about these 2 episodes, by the way. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was like, I really want Dave and Allie to get back together. And, sometimes, you can have a situation where 2 people cross paths and they don't, they connect, but for whatever external factors, they can't be together at that time. And I feel like Dave and Allie are kind of like really meant for one another. Like all of the things that make Dave cringy to everyone else, she's cool with and accepts. Like, she's not cool with like him being irresponsible or him flaking on things because he's, making a song or doing something like that. But the things like his flaws and his imperfections, the things that he would be insecure about, that anybody would be insecure about, the back acne, the shit with his dick, like all of these things, like she's accepting of these things, and they have a unique bond. And I think that plays out most clearly at the end of episode 2, when Dave tries to get this random chick that he picked up at Elle's party. She comes back to the crib with him, and they're in the studio, and he tries to recreate almost the auto-tune moment that he had with Allie when they were getting together. And the way this other woman like just struggled with it so mightily was awkward, but it also helps you feel for Dave, like, this is really what is right for him, Allie being this. And I thought that was a kind of a beautiful, poignant moment. Like, it's kind of played up a little bit for laughs, but at the end of the day, you could tell like he misses Allie, and he's trying to see if he can recreate that magic with someone else. And this other chick is just too fucking ditzy to even kind of pull this off. Like, it's a very basic instruction, like literally sing anything. Like, you don't even have to really sing it. Just speak something in rhythm. And she's just like, I don't know what to say. Like, okay. But, ultimately he does still end up hooking up with her, presumably. But I think that's mainly out of just sheer loneliness and desire for companionship. And Allie, like that entire episode, Antsy, the second episode, really played up on the idea of him being incomplete without Allie, because he's so antsy about the possibility of seeing her at Elle's party. And then it's a cool double entendre, because he had the aunt situation that was going on in his house, which they played to perfect effect with the what ended up being, but I didn't know it. None of us knew at the time, so I literally wanted to leap out of my skin. The ant sequence at the end where he starts to put his junk into the sex toy, and he's got the VR goggles on so he can't see. So he's about to put his shit into the fucking sex toy and it's covered in ants. I'm like, oh my God. Because I didn't know this was a dream sequence. So yeah, like cringy stuff like that. Like this show, like they nailed it with that. Like, again, I almost leapt out of my skin. Like, oh my God, he's not going to put his dick in this fucking ant-infested sex toy. But great moment on there. So yeah, I talked a little bit about one of the other things I want to talk about was the relationship between him and Allie, and the depth that exists there too. So I kind of went into that a little bit already. And then Gaida, man, I love Gaida. Gaida is the second best character on the show, and it's not even close after him. Gaida's the funniest character on the show. I don't know if he's the funniest, because Dave's really funny too, but Gaida's hilarious. But the thing that I like the most about Gaida is that underneath his seemingly just like ghetto exterior, like, yo, I'm trying to smoke weed and yada yada yada, he has a lot of depth to him as well. And we had the whole, if you watch season 1, there was that whole kind of like mental illness kind of episode that revolved around Gaida. And then Gaida is great with like talk about, like, when you talk about a hype man, like if you're a fan of hip hop, you've seen some hype men, right? You know what their role is. You've been to a concert, you know what the role of a hype man is. And Gaida fits that specific role of hype man. He fits that well. But he's almost like a life coach hype man. Like he's a hype man for you in your personal life. Like when you feel down, or when you feel you lack confidence or something like that. Gaida's like your emotional hype man. And I think that's so cool to have a guy like that who can simultaneously play for comedic effect, like the whole scene with him with the VR goggles on, like pretending like he's like rubbing nipples and shit. Like that whole, like, he could play for that comedic effect, but at the same time, whenever Dave is like feeling down on himself or questioning his abilities or his confidence, Gaida's the one that hops in and like and builds him up. And it's so simple. It's not just like he doesn't give like a long motivational speech. It always just feels like just coming from his heart, like, man, you got this, like, you good, let's go fuck this shit up, let's go, like, and he like literally hypes you up, like, you can't possibly be down on yourself. You got somebody like Gaida on your team. And I think that's like, I think between Atlanta and Dave, I think Atlanta has the better cast. You know, you got an Oscar nominee there. You got Donald Glover, Oscar nominee being Lakeith Stanfield. You got my man who plays Paperboy. I think it's Brian Tyree something. I'm blanking on his name right now, but I think he was in he's now doing big stuff too. You know, he was in the Godzilla versus Kong movie. I think he's in the Eternals, the Marvel movie. Like, so he's like doing big stuff too. So you got these guys have become movie stars in the time since Atlanta last aired. But I think of the entire cast of characters between both shows, Gaida is the best character between both shows. Like, Gaida is a great character. Like, I loved in the first episode, and this is like in the first like couple of seconds of this episode, minutes maybe. Dave's in Korea. He's about to do a video with a Korean pop star, do a K-pop video with this Korean K-pop artist named CL. And Gaida he goes, what does CL stand for? Korean lady? Like, oh my God. Yeah, Gaida is crazy, man. But like, I thought that episode 2 was really good, the International Gander episode, because like that's like, I felt real tension there. Like, that's scary to like, okay, we have to go to this police station to get this intern out because he has Dave's laptop, which unbeknownst to anybody has no music on it. And then they get there, and then there's the whole situation with the weed, which they had planted that, no pun intended, earlier in the episode with the idea of having to take down the Instagram post because Gaida was in the background with weed, and weed is just like a complete no-go in Korea, right? So it starts off as we have to take down this IG post, and then it turns into a thing where it's like, okay, the weed falls out in the car, the Uber driver sees it or cab driver sees it, and now they're at a police station and they don't speak Korean, so they don't know if he's telling on them or not. Like, it was a perfect scene to really ratchet up that tension. And they subtle things that you wouldn't necessarily think of, like the language barrier or the fact that, like, I didn't know that weed was that big of a deal in Korea. The fact that they had to go to a police station, like, all of that was so well written to make for a scene where you are seriously concerned. Is like, is this man going to go to prison in a foreign country? That's fucking scary. So, like, they did a great job with all of the moving parts to bring them to this place where you make for now an actual really intense scene in a fucking comedy. Like, it's really brilliant writing. So again, my hat's off to this show. We still have the celeb appearances. We had Kendall Jenner in one of the episodes. We had Kyle Kuzma from the Lakers in one of the episodes. I don't know. There might have been some more celebrities I missed, but those two I caught. I think they said Hailey Bieber was in one, but I don't know what she looks like. So I'm assuming she was one of the other women in the pool with Kendall Jenner, but I don't know what she looks like. So let's see. I don't know why Els. It seems like Els is being kind of a dick to Dave, and I don't really know why. And it could be something from season 1 that I just don't remember because I didn't rewatch season 1 or anything, and they didn't have a last season on Dave kind of thing. But I feel like Els is being very dismissive of Dave, and I don't really understand why. Him coming back into LA and not telling Dave. And then he's like, yeah, I'm having this party, you could swing by or whatever. And then as soon as I had the thought, Dave verbalized it, like, if I hadn't called you, would you have told me about this party? And like there's a dynamic in that friendship there that I'm wondering if it's gonna play out in a less than ideal way throughout the course of this season. But all in all, man, like I'm still absolutely loving this show. I think it's a sneaky good show that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. Like, it's incredibly well written. It's incredibly funny. It gives you some really emotional moments, both from a positive sense, like you feel for a character, or you feel for a moment, but emotional also in that you can get excited, you can get riled up, you can get grossed out. It makes me respond viscerally to certain stimuli on the television, which most of the time when I'm watching something, I'm just watching it. And if something cool happens, I might go, oh, okay, or something like that. But this show will literally make me just like, oh God, please stop it. You know, like really, really passionate kind of physiological responses. So like, again, I think that's such a feather in the cap of the writers on this show, which I would not be surprised if Lil Dicky is one of them. And if he is, my God, the talent on this guy. And he's got bars. Like, let's be real, he's got bars. Dude can rap. So yeah, across the board, man, really enjoyable show. I absolutely love this show. I will be here covering it every week. The Handmaid's Tale is over, and so now Wednesdays will consist of Loki for the next 4 weeks and Dave for the next however many weeks that it airs. I don't know how many episodes are in this season, presumably 10. So Wednesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays, I'll be dropping a video for Loki. Thursdays, I'll be dropping a video for Dave. And that will be what we will be doing for the remainder of each of those respective seasons. So until next week, I will see you guys for episode 3 of Dave and episode 3 of Loki. All right, next time. Peace.